commandments. Why? Man can't tell me nothing about this coke. Can't tell me nothing about this crack.
All right, guys, welcome back. So, finished a long week. My family came over. You know, they spent a week over here. My brother came over. You know, we shot a couple videos together that I posted on my YouTube. And, you know, I took my full load out and I tested my guns out all together as well as my brother. And, you know, I really came to appreciation of the Glocks, you know. So specifically this one, the Glock 26 Gen 5 9mm. Just make sure it's clear. So this gun really shocked me because it's a little gun, you know. It's meant for concealed carry. It's not a performance type gun, but it really shot good. So I compared it to the Canic Prime new release that just came out, and this gun was right there with it. You know, it wasn't super snappy compared to other, you know, micro compact guns. This one held up pretty nicely, and when I put it up against the Canic Prime, it did really good compared to the Canic Prime. So a lot of that has to do with, you know, the thickness of the gun, the frame, the slide. It's pretty thick, so it has more the recoil is better to, you know, manage with a thicker gun instead of a thinner gun. So I really held up pretty good against the Canic Prime, and, you know, it make me like this gun a lot more. So I'm gonna start carrying this bad boy more, you know, with the pinky extension, get a nice full grip on it. So I really like this gun, you know. I wish it was a little optic cut, but I'll probably end up getting it cut in a month or two, just so I got a red dot on there. Then probably put a TLR6, have laser on it. But, you know, it's not anything you need, it's just personal preference. But this gun did really good, you know. Like I said, for the size and weight, it really shocked me. So now over here we got the 19, which I also, you know, found a big appreciation for last week shooting it compared to all my guns. In my opinion, guys, you know, this gun is damn near the best gun in the world. You know, I put it up against the PDP SD series, and this gun shot better than the Walther PDP. You know, the Walther PDP did have a better trigger, and it had a better feel to the grip. Like when you grip the gun, it felt really nice in the hand. But when I shot the guns back to back, the 19 shot better. So I don't know what it is, guys. Like, it's hard to beat a 19, you know. And when I was shooting them back to back, I noticed this gun is way flatter than the PDP, and the dimensions aren't, you know, too off. They're pretty much similar. This gun and the Walther is pretty similar. So I shot them, and, you know, I was really able to keep the 19 flat while shooting really quick. So I also put the magwell back on that I had, and I'm starting to like it more as well because I'm able to, you know, get nice and up there in the beaver tail. As you can see, my hand is nice and planted on top of the gun, nice high up on the gun. So I'm able to let off those shots and keep the muzzle nice and down. So the 19 really, you know, I really started to like it even more. Like, I really love my 19, you know, because this is my main everyday carry. But after shooting my full load out, I'm like, damn, this gun is really good, man. Like, it's hard to beat, you know, just like a classic 19. It's really hard. There is one thing I did. If you can see over here, I changed the recoil spring. I put the Radian compressor in it with the 18-pound spring, and, you know, I don't know if it makes it shoot flatter because it's a metal guide rod and not a plastic one, but I don't know. I felt like it was shooting really flat when I took it out to the range. So yeah, I really like this, you know. And my brother, he has the 19 as well with the Radian ramjet, and I shot it and it's even flatter. So, you know, the 19 already is a good gun. Like, it doesn't have a lot of recoil, but putting a ramjet on it is going to make it, you know, a little bit better. And if you're a good shooter, it's going to make you a little bit better of a shooter. So yeah, the 19, you know, really did impress me compared to all my other guns, you know, because I thought the Walther PDP was going to shoot better than the 19, but at the end of the day, it didn't really, you know, add up to that. You know, the trigger was better. I felt like the ergonomics of the Walther were better, but you know, shooting the guns, the 19 just, you know, it just something about the 19. I don't know if it's the grip angle or, you know, if I'm just more used to the Glock platform, but this gun won, you know, this gun shot better. So if the Walther shot better, guys, I'll tell you straight up, the Walther shoots better, you know, the Walther feels better, but that wasn't the case. So that's that for the 19. And then my 45, you know, the 45 is basically like a pack-a-punched Glock 19. So in my opinion, you know, this is the best gun because it's a hybrid of the 17 and the 19. So, and if you put the ramjet on it, it's the length of a 17, but doesn't shoot like a 17. It shoots better than a 17. If you put the 15-pound recoil spring and the ramjet, it shoots better than a 17. So, you know, this gun as well, you know, I already knew it was good, but just comparing it to my full loadout, this gun's just the best, man. Like, I don't think it gets better than a Glock 45 with a radial ramjet, honestly, man. Like, even the 19, you know, I shot them back to back. I shot my brother's 19 with the radial ramjet, and my Glock 45 just shoots better. And that's because, you know, you get a little bit extra grip. You know, you got more real estate to play with. So, you know, you're able to keep that gun, you know, fully locked into the palm of your hands. You know, the 19 is good too. You know, don't get me wrong, 19 is good, but I feel like if you have a little bit of bigger hands, medium to big hands, the 45 is just perfect, man. 45 is perfect. You know, nice surface area to plant your hand. Nice grooves that you got there, and it just keeps the gun nice and down. So, you know, if you guys don't have a Glock, this is your sign to go get a Glock, man. You know, I feel like this is pretty much all you need. If you were to only have 3 guns, I would say the Glock 45, you know, your performance gun, your competition gun, your 19, your main everyday carry. You know, nothing gets better than the classic 19 Gen 5. Your main everyday carry right here. And then your deep concealment gun will be this one, a Glock 26 Gen 5, you know. Slap some night sights on there and you should be good to go. You know, if you really want to conceal and, you know, not print or not have it bother you, you know, get a Glock 26 and you're going to have a good, solid gun right there, man. You don't need, you know, honestly, compensators and, you know, slide cuts and, you know, all that fancy stuff, double undergroove, whatever. All that stuff is nice, but, you know, one thing I really noticed this past week was that, you know, Glock is simply the best, man. There's no other gun that I ever shot compares to these guns right here. You know, well, mainly these two right here. No other gun that I ever shot really like beat this gun. That made me say like, wow, this gun's way better than, you know, the Glock 19 or the Glock 45. So, you know, these are the 2 guns that I would never get rid of. Like all my other guns, you know, I'll probably, if I ever had to, you know, get rid of them, those would be the ones that I'll be selling or trading out. But in terms of the G45 and G19, you know, these will always stay in my safe. You know, these are never going to be sold, never traded. These 2 are my main ones right here. So, you know, and then got the Ruger over here. Let me just make sure it's clear. So I got the Ruger over here, and this is a very good concealed carry gun too, guys. You know, it's not the best shooting gun. You know, it's not a gun that that shoots better than the Glock 19 Gen 5, but it is a good concealed carry gun. You know, don't get me wrong, because I was talking about in my last video how if I only had to choose one, the Canic or this one, it'd be the Canic. But this is also a good choice for concealed carry. You know, it's a solid platform based off the Gen 3 Glock 19, and it's a good gun. You know, I'm not gonna lie and say it's a terrible gun. It's a good gun. You know, the trigger is heavier than your standard, you know, Glock 19. I think so. You can see right there. You know, there's a lot of creep. Then the the reset is pretty long as well. So if you're more comfortable with concealed carrying a heavier trigger, you know, this is a good option. You know, I ran about 7, 8 700 to 800 rounds last week on it, on top of the 1,000 round review. And this one didn't have a single malfunction. You know, it ran perfectly. It didn't give me no issues. The only thing was the dot. I had to zero it a bit, but other than that, no, the gun ran flawless. Even with this custom slide that I picked up the other day. This is a Gen 3 Glock 19 slide, and I put it on the Ruger, and you know, it was running perfect. You know, put the OEM Ruger barrel back in there, and gun was running solid. So, you know, big kudos to Ruger RXM for doing that. You know, for making a good gun that has no issues and all that. But you know, does it shoot better than the 19? It doesn't. You know, simply just being simple, guys. Like, it doesn't compare to a 19 Gen 5. I'm just saying it how it is. You know, and I would like to like this gun more. You know, I would have wanted it to be better than this gun, but you know, it isn't. So I ain't gonna sit here and say that this gun is better than the 19 Gen 5 only because it looks better. Because, you know, it does look sick. Like, especially with the custom slide, gun looks beautiful now. So, but you know, it's a good concealed carry gun, but not better than 19. So anyways, if you guys don't have any of these models, I'd say you know, go to YouTube, look at some reviews, see if you like it, go out to the range, go shoot some, and I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna like these guns. You know, these guns are very good. Especially this one is very, for the size, is very flat, guys. This is a nice shooting gun for the size, for the weight. The very flat shooting gun. So, you know, any of these three options would be very good. You know, the Glock name stands behind it with reliability, durability. So, you know, you're getting a solid gun. You're not getting something new that just came out and might, you know, malfunction or have issues and all that. You know, you're getting a gun that has been proven, has been tested, and you know, it's popular for a reason, guys. There's a reason why this gun came out, because if this gun wasn't good, if this gun wasn't solid, you know, if it didn't have the name and the reliability behind it, there would be no Ruger RXM. Like, think about that. There would be no Zev. There would be no Rain Ordnance, whatever that name is called. There'd be no Shadow Systems, you know. So those are all guns based off of the Glock. So if this gun wasn't good, you know, if this gun was bad, there would be none of those brands. Those brands wouldn't exist, because you know, they wouldn't want to clone a gun that sucks. You know, ever think about why Taurus is never cloned? You know, like, nobody clones those guns because they're not good like that. Like, they're all right guns, but they're not, you know, compared to a Glock, they're nothing. So anyways guys, I just wanted to come on here and say, you know, give my 2 cents on these 3 guns after taking them all out to the range and compare them to my other guns. I just wanted to say, you know, if you don't got a Glock 45, 19, or 26, I say you go get one, you know. And I recently traded in my 43X for this one. And sorry, not for this one, it was my Canic, but I think it was a good choice, you know, because the Canic shoots better than the 43X, you know. So I think it was a good trade. I don't regret it. I'm gonna keep that Canic because I really like that Canic. So that Canic is definitely staying in the safe, you know. It's not going anywhere, and as well as this gun too, you know. Sometimes, you know, sometimes I don't want to carry a 19. Maybe I want to grab a gun that's a little nicer, that looks good, but it's still reliable, you know. I'm not gonna trade a pretty gun for something that isn't reliable. You know, it has to have reliability for me to carry it. I'm not just gonna carry a gun because it looks nice or it's Gucci or whatever. You know, the gun needs to, you know, work. It needs to, you know, be trusted. At least I need to be able to have all my trust in it. So this gun definitely proved it to me, and that's why I'm carrying it now. And that's why it's not going anywhere. I'm keeping this gun as well. So kind of look like a SIG M17, but it's not a SIG, man. It's definitely not a SIG. That's probably one gun you will never see in my my channel is a SIG, man, because you know, the only SIG I ever had was the P365, and I think I had it after like 4 months. it started rusting. And you know, I used to be very meticulous with my cleaning, and I used to clean it a lot, you know, oil it up. And I remember coming home from the range one day to clean it, and there was like rust all over the internals. So I'm like, that's kind of cheap, you know. Sorry, cut off there. But yeah, guys, anyways, you know, get a Glock if you don't got one. Very solid guns.